Hey, what's up guys? I've just been sitting over thinking about the Guilty Gear Strive beta for quite a while now. I've been playing the Guilty Gear series for however long, since a little bit before Exerd, and I played a lot of top players, attended my own share of events, and you know, the series is really important to me. And so I'm not trying to sound like a doomsayer when I talk about this stuff. In all honesty, Guilty Gear might be my favorite fighting game series. But yeah, let's just get into it. So pretty much, this game is pretty clearly designed with like a lot of new players in mind, and I think that's a pretty good idea. I think there are a lot of things in Guilty Gear that have needed to be streamlined, and so it's not entirely a bad thing. What I find strange though is the arbitrary Gatling system that they added. It's weird, and it isn't necessarily friendly to beginners or old players, to be honest. Like, why does punch chain into 6 punch, but not 5H or whatever 5S? I think the easiest way to get players started is light, medium, heavy, sweep. You know, that's like usually the Guilty Gear idea. Punch, kick, slash, you know. I do like 5S into 5H. I think that kind of is a cool idea where you poke with your footsie buttons and whatnot. But yeah, it's not entirely intuitive, not the biggest fan. And so that leads back kind of into the air chains. The air chains don't really make much sense either because they follow this weird Gatling rule. And so yeah, a lot of these decisions are kind of made with leading into new players into the game. And for example, also, it's kind of like in the older titles, I think raw damage per stray normal wasn't like really too high. Like, you needed to use meter or have the corner or have like some other conditions met really to get like the high damage conversions. And in this version of the game, damage off stray hits is just like way too high, especially for how scrambly something like Guilty Gear can get. You know, you're gonna get hit by like counter hit uppercut and just like, it's a lot of damage. It's kind of weird to me. Or just random heavy slash with the big old counter text, or just get command grabbed and lose half your health. There's really high damage for a lot of stuff. Yet, conversely, like 6P style AntiAirs don't seem to have enough reward yet. And this kind of like leads to a lot of characters having degenerate air dash neutral with like super oppressive buttons and like air dash jump S, you know, stuff like that. And like you can anti-air them like 5 times, but if they jump in once, then you die. It's kind of ridiculous. It's weird because the 6P is your dedicated anti-air, but it doesn't lead to anything. It's not like 6P is jump cancelable, or 6P can't even combo into 5S to jump cancel, which leads back to our talk about the Gatlings. It's like 6P counter hit, and that's kind of it. And it's hard to anti-air people in general because of the way the air dash works. It's kind of weird too, because like, you know, they'll get in once, right? Like Soul, Bandit Bringer, or May will just like jump heavy, and it'll even clash with your anti-airs. It's ridiculous that you're not rewarded higher, to be honest. And in a game that's supposed to be all about big damage, they just didn't put high damage on the things that reward like really solid grounded play. If you didn't have an uppercut or like a super dedicated anti-air move, then you're in trouble. On the other hand though, it is very fun to FDC air dash and then press jump S. I think that is the most fun part of the beta. Jump, air dash, cancel, jump S. It'll cross up, you'll auto correct, you'll do whatever. Especially because the walk speed is really slow. So that's kind of like how a lot of people are going to move in. And this leads back to the anti-air talk. The air grabs don't really give any Oki either. And so like if somebody even just like air grabs you, which is like the best feeling in older Guilty Gears to just jump and air grab someone. If you air grab someone in this version of the game, you don't get any Oki. You got to spend bar like 50 meter to get a combo. Like jumping is the way to go, which is really counterintuitive. But that's kind of how I feel about the gameplay right now. I feel like I also don't really need to talk about how the lobbies are. I think we all know the lobbies aren't great. I'm sure after enough complaining, they've probably thought it isn't great either, to be honest. I feel like I don't need to hark back on that. I really want to just get into the gameplay. The game looks great graphically. No problems there. I think a lot of the UI has a lot of good minimalist ideas. I think it's just implemented really amateur-ish. Like the splash screens look like Splatoon screens, and the giant big numbers or whatever. I think those can look cool, but it just didn't work this time around. I think you can go with a minimalist look for Guilty Gear, but you have to be really careful. I think the legacy of this series needs to have the respect of where its roots come from. But to bring it to the UI, for how important the risk gauge is and how important it is to pay attention to that in a match, it is barely visible through gameplay. Like, it is like in the top corner, like up here. You shouldn't have to avert your eyes to identify where the risk gauge is, especially your risk gauge is cranked up. Someone does SH, gun flame, whatever, that's 50% of your risk gauge, and then the next hit you take, you're gonna die. So it's a failure in UI design, I think, to have the risk gauge this small on that moving little life bar system. On the other hand, like, I do like the risk gauge. I think it is cool that they're trying to really push that being a mechanic. I do wish that if you instant block, maybe it wouldn't give you risk, or maybe it could lower it, but that's just me. I do like the new RC system. I think it's really interesting, and I think it functions similar enough to how Exert is for me to grasp it. I know a lot of people, older players, didn't really like the Exert style of like slow down the time stop Roman cancel, but I think they got a good medium. The slowdown only happens if the explosion portion of it connects with the opponent. So it's give or take. I think we'll see some cool stuff coming from that. It's really, really nice that everything is tied back to the meter in this game, though. I like the simplified 2-bar section of the meter, and I do like that everything relates to the Roman cancel, right? The combo RC, the defensive RC, it's one RC. You don't need dead angle to be called something different, right? Just RC and block stun. I think that's a nice streamlined way to get new people to understand how this stuff works. There's also a couple other weird things, like the instant block, and you don't have to dash break, you don't have to run and guard, you can just run and then grab someone. A couple little weirder mechanic changes, like dust doesn't send them flying up unless it's on a counter hit. It's kind of interesting, but you can combo off the wall or whatever. But speaking of the wall, I think the wall is kind of interesting. I don't know. This could turn out good and bad, but what I don't really like is that if you break the wall, you get more meter. It says it gives you a big thingy in the corner, and it says positive, okay? But the chances are the meter gain doesn't really matter because they're gonna die anyway. You just did like 50%, 60% of their health on that wall combo anyway. The meter doesn't even... It doesn't even transfer between rounds. Like, why? It's like a placebo effect of, oh yeah, good job, bro. I get why the wall breaks, okay? It breaks so that new players don't get mauled, right? People don't like getting beat up in the corner. That's like a lot of people's biggest complaints about starting fighting games. But there's no real choice in breaking the wall, because it's always gonna wall break. You can't not break the wall. Everything wall splats, and I think we'll see a lot of crazy combos that involve just the wall, like every game. But there isn't any choice on how the wall is, and it's hard to identify the wall's health, to be completely honest. So we'll see how that one plays out. I think it was probably very hard to tell character strength, and I don't really want to get into that too much because that's all tentative change. I feel like the design decisions, they have boiled a lot of these characters down to their base versions. So like Kai's the poke guy, Soul is a gorilla who does a lot of damage, Chip is fast. We don't really know the small details of these characters because we haven't had training. When people say Chip sucks, I don't know. We don't know if he sucks because you didn't have training mode to learn a Chip mix-up. But of course, Soul is going to seem really strong because he's a gorilla and he does half her health off a command grab. That doesn't inherently mean that Chip sucks or that he's doomed, but we'll see where that goes. But yeah, outside of this, I had a great time during the beta. I had a lot of fun. The netcode is kind of iffy. But they said they were replacing it with rollback. So hopefully they'll have another one with their rollback netcode right before the release. I would have a lot of fun playing another beta, even if the lobby system was kind of whack. But let me know how you felt, and feel free to subscribe if you want to see some future fighting game analysis. I stream just about every week on Twitch, so I'll be sure to leave a link in the description below. And thanks a bunch, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Cock and ball torture clog.